Hey friends! We're out in the front yard garden doing some work, and I wanted to share a couple things that we've got going on so you can see some progress here as we're getting our summer stuff planted and getting all the winter stuff out. So we just finished clearing this raised bed. It had some leftover kohlrabi and lettuce and things, and just filled it with, we have peppers, an eggplant, and a squash, and a couple basil, and some companion flowers in there as well. We already had switched over this bed over here, and that bed, and the back big bed there last weekend. And when we did that, we are trying out a new watering system this year. In the past, we've either hand watered, which is like kind of a pain in the butt, obviously, and set up like a pseudo drip system where we made our own drip, but we used the little sprinkler head emitter things, and they really saturated in one spot, but not like throughout the whole bed evenly. And they sprayed a little bit too, which wasn't great for squash. Like squash doesn't like getting its leaves wet, and we ended up getting even more mildew than ever. And so it still works well, and we could have used it, but we wanted to go ahead and try something a little different. So we had picked up from the kind folks over at Gardener Supply these awesome premium soaker hoses. And so I love the color. I love that they're not as not natural looking as the black ones, and unlike the black ones, these aren't made from like icky gross recycled rubber tires. These are actually food grade, drinking water grade polyurethane, so they're not going to leach nasty stuff into our soil. And the other thing that's really great about them, and we tested them out for the last week because I wanted to test them before I talked to you about them, was that they actually have really great even moisture distribution. So when you plug your hose into one end, it actually evenly distributes the entire way, which we've not had the best luck with other hoses in the past to do that. So that's an awesome thing. We tested it so you can't even see them. They're actually buried under here. So that's the other thing, is you can put, as long as it's a coarse mulch, so we have like a compost mulch on top of it, they're all in here so you can see it snaked. So I'll show you once we actually get it set up on this bed, kind of the pattern that we do, but it's already in these multiple beds here. It's just covered in the compost mulch. So what's really nice is, we just plug it into this end and it weaves all the way through the bed. And how we tested that too is we have a growoya buried down here. So let me come over this way. So these are like clay vessels that water through osmosis, so you fill them with water, and I have a small one over there I'll show you in a moment, but we have a large one buried in here. And what's really neat was that we put that in and last week and filled it. Aaron just filled it on Wednesday, and it is now Saturday, and it's still full of water. So it's full 3 to 4 days later still. And what that's telling me is that this bed is nice and wet, which is awesome, because this will only empty if the soil is calling for water. Because again, with osmosis, it's only going to draw out of the clay. You can kind of see it, but it's buried. It's basically like a big clay bulb. Like I said, I'll grab one so you can see it. But that's in between our tomatoes, because tomatoes love deep water. So we stuck that in at this end, but this is also the far end of those soaker hoses. So theoretically, if it wasn't giving even distribution, this end would be more dry. And again, it's still holding moisture really, really well. And we dug in there and made sure everything looks wet, and it does. So really, really excited. The other thing we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to excuse me. We're going to be able to hook up with a timer. And so we're going to use a timer and hook it to our main hose, because we still do have to come and, put the hose on this one, and then we switch it over and have the one over here, and then switch it over and we've got the one over there, and then we're going to put it here. So it'll be a nice little 4-way area, so we don't have to go far, but we do still have to manually switch our hoses around. But there's a timer that we can hook to the house and set that. So like if Aaron wants to set it before he even gets home from work to start for one of the beds, if we're going to run it for 45 minutes or so, then that one will already be done, and then he can just come and switch to the next one. And what we're thinking about doing, so I'll update you on that if we do it, is actually get a 2-way splitter, because these two big beds are the same size. They're both about 4 by 8. They would probably run the soaker hose for the same amount of time. And so if we can run our main hose over and get a 2-way splitter and then set that timer on, it'll run and fill and water both of these beds at the same same time. And then all we would have to do is switch the splitter over and connect it to these two, what size are these? These are about like 3x8 or 3x7. So then we can hook it to these guys. Yeah, so this end is exposed too, so you can see. So yeah, so we kind of just weave it back and forth across the beds, and it's been working really great for us. So I just wanted to let you guys know about it. And then I'll show you the grow Oya over here, because we're actually going to set up a small grow Oya. So we do have the grow Oyas. So this is a medium. We have another medium in the kind of smaller bed, and then have the big one, the large one here, and we have another large one. There's a large one in this bed as well. Keeping this all nice and wet, because we don't have any soaker hose or anything hooked up in here, because it's kind of a smaller bed. This is a 3x5. And I should mention too, so we have the 50-foot hoses, soaker hose in this big size, and a 25 in here. So we have two 25s and two 50s. And then what we're going to try with the smaller Oya, so here's like a little mini version of the grow Oya, is we're going to try putting this in this wine barrel, because in this wine barrel we have an artichoke, and I stuck a little cosmos in here too, but it's good for a smaller container. So you wouldn't necessarily want to water a Aaron's going to open it for us. You wouldn't want to necessarily water an entire like raised bed with just Oyas. And that's another thing I should mention too, they are really great for like supplemental water and for deep watering. Yeah, so there's the little guy. So we're going to probably put this little guy, perfect for containers, back here behind our artichoke before it gets any more established, because I don't want to disturb its roots by burying this in there. But we're going to get that guy buried in here, and just be able to fill that. And we'll probably still, water a little bit over here, but this just is that extra reserve. And again, a really great indicator too for how deep and moist our soil is. So that's what we're working on today, and I just wanted to give you that update. And so far so good. Oh, there's a hummer. Hi, hummingbird. And yeah, now I'm gonna get distracted by the hummingbird. But I hope you guys enjoy that, and I will add links and information here to those products if you're interested in checking them out. You can get that one set up. All right, we'll show you once it's all situated. All right, and there it is, all laid out, so you can see it weaves nicely around all the plants. It's gonna give even moisture to everything. And then what we secure them down with is just these, we get these really heavy duty long, they're called like contractor staples or landscape staples. Yeah. So these guys, this is what we use for like all of our weed block fabric and everything too, because they're long and heavy duty, and they actually stay put instead of letting things pop up. So yeah, so that is that little thing, and then we'll get it covered up and you don't even have to look at it, which is pretty cool too. And then the fittings are really nice and heavy duty too, so these guys so far have not leaked at all and are just really, really well made. So excited about that, and we'll get it covered up and probably get it turned on, and then I can show you the hose in action. All right, so we turned it on. It's doing its weepy thing. And one of the other benefits of covering it with mulch, if you decide to do that, is that if you do crank it up too high, there can be like little sprays. Yeah, Aaron found them. So they can spritz a little bit like that if it's up too high, because there's not a pressure reducer on the hose itself. So you can either buy a separate pressure reducer, which we might actually do anyways, for our hose bib attachment, so then we can actually know the exact gallons per minute that's coming through this hose, because there's like a little chart that comes with it based on the PSI, the pressure that's going through your hose, how many gallons a minute these soaker hoses will put out. So just to regulate that, we might put something on our hose bib. But what I was going to get at is if you crank it up too high, it can like spray little spritzes like that. But that's one of the benefits of covering it with mulch, is then you can turn it up a little bit higher and the mulch actually keeps that down, so it won't actually spray. And I mean, it's not a big deal if there's a few little bits like that anyways. But that is one nice thing, is you can actually really saturate your mulch as well as the soil. So we're going to go ahead and get this covered. Okay, good morning. Following up on this irrigation video, I just wanted to mention too that this is actually to go along with a blog post all about different irrigation solutions. So not just the soaker hoses and the grow ollas that I already showed you guys. I just wanted to follow up now this morning with a couple other things that are going to be mentioned in that blog post to give you a visual. So it's a nice foggy morning out here, and one of the things that we're going to talk about in the post is rainwater capture. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail in the post, but I just wanted to give you a visual here. This is our smaller 140-gallon rain tank. It's by Polymart. We don't have gutters, so you can see up there we just hooked up a copper funnel with some tubing, and this was a downspout, a valley right here in our roof that was dripping off a lot of water, and so that was a good spot to put this smaller tank. So we do a bit of rainwater capture. We have some bigger tanks in the back that I will show you as well, so we'll talk a little bit about that more in the post, but there's your visual. Also, we're going to talk about traditional drip irrigation, so you can see the black drip line coming there. We were fortunate when we moved in, and it comes from the side of our driveway over there, and it runs here, and it goes all the way around the perimeter of our yard. And that was previously installed for us. We've extended it and we've modified it, but it goes all the way around, all the way around. We'll go and look at a couple of the emitters over here, but basically it runs all along the back, weaves in through those terraces, and then we extended it when we redid that front yard corner over here to weave down through those, that stone flowery area there, and then it comes down all the way back around here. And so that's more of a traditional drip irrigation system, and it's all hooked up to timers and everything. So all we have to do is modify, which emitters we have where for our plants, and then, change the timer based on the season of how much we want it to water. So you can see it over here. Let's see, where's some of the black tubing. Yep, so there's the tubing. So we have a few different styles. This one is just a regular drip. It's just going to single, drip right here to kind of water this pineapple guava. It doesn't need water and doesn't like a ton of water right on it, so we're just kind of saturating the soil behind it. And then this puts off a little larger of a fan. It's still coming back, but I have some other plants back here that they actually look like they got eaten by something too. But I have some zinnias and some sunflowers and calendula, and there's also some milkweed in this area. So I was trying to just kind of water a little bit of a larger area with something like that. So there are those sort of things around here. So here's another one. Here is, and you can tell by the holes on the top of it, just a 180. So you can get different ones, that either have a 360 pattern. This one just has a 180 to water this fig tree. So that goes all the way around our entire yard, and takes care of a lot of our automated needs for us. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is this whole area here used to have grass, and when we removed the grass, we had sprinklers. They were kind of like in this corner, maybe one over there. This is just traditional, lawn sprinklers, another one in the front, and a couple just all the way around. Well, we wanted to still be able to utilize those sprinklers that were all also on automatic systems, but we didn't really know exactly how we wanted to convert it to drip without, hiring a professional and whatnot. And then I found out about these really great little manifolds. So I have one over here that's easy to see, so I wanted to show you. So this is a drip manifold. This used to be a regular sprinkler. So all this is this head unit on a new sprinkler riser. So you just replace the sprinkler head, put a riser on, and then put this manifold on, and it has a filter and a pressure reducer, and then obviously spacing for, I think this one has like 8 or 9 micro drip tubing emitters that then you can just connect to and then water your plants. And so we have that in all of these little, we call them pollinator zones here. So there's, I think 1 or 2 in this one here, and then these little islands, or those zones back there are bigger, and there were more sprinklers. So we have 2 in that one and then 2 in that one. And so that was the easiest way to convert traditional sprinklers to drip irrigation. A couple notes though. Like I said, we had to move the sprinklers, so they were along the perimeter. So you can either use PVC to extend, the run that goes underground, or we found also these flexible tubing that you could use that were compatible with PVC and adequate for high pressure. So we just ran those and moved all the sprinklers inward where we needed them, and then popped on those heads. Also with those heads, you have to replace every single one that's in that pressure zone. So if that zone comes on and 5 sprinklers come on, 4 sprinklers come on, all of them need to be replaced because the pressure differential between like a traditional sprinkler and one of those guys will cause issues. So we replaced all of them in this zone, and that was a way to really, really easily convert a regular sprinkler system into a drip system that is much more efficient. So that's what we have going on in the front. I'm going to show you just a couple more things in the backyard really quick here. All right, so now I'm over on our side yard, and this is our greenhouse, and you can see this little gutter section that we added up here. Again, we don't have gutters, but this was a valley where a ton of water ran off. And so we added a little gutter attachment, and it's gonna be kind of hard to see what's going on back here because it's behind the chicken run, but I'll go on the other side and show you too. But we have it running over to, we have 2 530-gallon slimline rain tanks that run back here. Hi, Zoe Bird. That run back here behind the chicken run. And that's the overflow that just goes down. There's a drainage ditch over there. So when it overflows, and they're connected together at the bottom, we're actually going to connect them at the top, I think, next season too, to get better even distribution in them. But hi, chicks. So we have these 2 huge rain tanks back here. And this is the majority of our rainwater. So I talk about in the post that, you really need a bit of storage to, if you're not in a place that it rains a lot, because it doesn't rain that much here except in the winter time. Here's a better view. And so these aren't going to refill unless we get frequent rain. So we have to catch like all of our rain during the winter months, just the few months that it does rain well. And so that's why we have such large storage. If we lived in a place where it rained more frequently, then it probably wouldn't be as difficult because they would refill more often. So as you use it, they refill, like if you get summer rain. So those are our biggest rain tanks. Hi, chicks. Okay, and then the last little system I wanted to show you guys about is another little DIY drip system we've set up here in the backyard, and we used to have them in the front yard as well. So basically with that same kind of traditional, drip tubing, we got a roll of it, and then with this is a pressure reducer and then just a hose attachment. So pressure reducer just so you don't blow out your system. So there's a pressure reducer, a hose attachment, and then if you can see it running back there, this is just that black irrigation tubing, and we used, this is, like a T so that we could have it come off this direction to that bed and then keep going to that bed. I'm getting picked at. Excuse me, leave me alone. And so it runs along the back here, and then it also runs all behind that bed and around. And then we just attach, emitters, and have little emitters going here and there throughout the bed. So then we can water in between plants. And we've found that this system, and then you can do, if you're on the edge of a bed, you could do like this one's a 180, so that it's not spraying out the side of the bed, that it's just going into the bed. So you can do a variety of, single drip. We like to use like the 180 and the 360s because we like to try to saturate the entire soil a little bit more than just in one spot. But what we've been finding is we like the system, and we're going to continue to use it probably here for a while because we have it. But we're finding that it's not as easy for something like, so that's carrots down there. It's harder to really get like an even saturation because then it's either going to drip in one spot, or as it starts to spray, it's like hitting the rest of your carrots, and the water's not getting to like every corner of the bed unless you put like a ton of emitters, and then it becomes all messy. So we're finding that we actually do prefer the soaker hoses to these systems for our raised beds for the type of plants we grow. If you're doing like tomatoes and stuff, that's just like a few larger plants in here, and you just have a couple emitters next to each one, then that works really great too, because you're not trying to get such an even distribution as the way that we are. Are you guys enjoying the greens? But anywho, so check out the blog post for more pictures and more details and information. This was just supposed to be kind of a visual to better explain and show all the different things I was talking about. And then obviously for containers, a lot of this kind of stuff we just hand water. So for our wine barrels and pots, we have a lot of pots back in the back garden back here. And then this area, I should mention too, we do still have just the regular traditional lawn sprinkler type sprinklers. So there's sprinklers back behind the trees, and then they just spray into this island and keep our fruit trees watered, and they also kind of keep the dust down for the chickens. So it just kind of keeps the water or the yard nice and moist back here, so it's not so dry and dusty. And that's that on Ginger. Okay, bye.